As I've grown older in life, I've come to realize that there's only so much value in resume virtues. I've come to pursue eulogy virtues. Those are things that people would say positively about how you impacted their lives when you're at the end of yours, right? Later in life, it's eulogy virtues that are at the top of my list, not those resume virtues that drove me in my younger days.
Well, everybody, welcome to At the Table, Voices of Restoration. I am here with Charles Wall. Charles is the president of SC Steel, husband to Jane, father of 3 adult children, proud grandfather of 3 grandchildren, ages 6, 5, and 2. Charles first got connected with Carrie through Grace Church and has spent several years investing in JUMPSTART South Carolina through workforce readiness classes, mentorship, opening up doors for the men and women who are rebuilding their lives. But beyond leading a successful company, Charles is passionate about helping people discover purpose, stewarding what God has entrusted to him, living out faith both in business and in everyday life. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you, Abby.
Many people know you as the president of SC Steel and through your involvement with JUMPSTART. But before all of that, who is Charles?
Well, Charles is a blessed man. I live a really good life. I'm married to Jane. We've been married for 40 years. Have 3 wonderful grandkids and 3 kids, 2 of which are in the Greenville area right now, so we get to interact with them a lot. But in addition to all those things, God's given me some opportunities to learn from painful things in my life. And through some of those painful things, I've connected with a number of authors who've written beneficial books. And right now, I'm getting some opportunities to share some of the things I've learned in those books with others. And I'll just mention a few of them. The first book that I really enjoy teaching, I just talked to a group of 10 organizational leaders, and it's Greg Brenneman's book, Right Away and All at Once. In that book, he talks about developing one-page go-forward plans, not only for business, but also in your personal life. And he organizes things into the 5 F's: faith, family, friends, fitness, finances, and then helps the reader dig deeper into how we can improve and align our actions to achieve our goals in each of those things. But another book that I've enjoyed is Les and Leslie Parrott's Healthy Me, Healthy Us. It starts with defining who we are in Christ and not letting our identity be driven by some of the things that we may have done or experienced that were painful in life. It's been a great book. And then third book that I've really enjoyed and I'm beginning to teach some others is Josh and Katie Walters wrote a book called New Marriage, Same Couple. And in that book, they lay out a curriculum that follows the acronym STAY, Start With Me, Take Quitting Off the Table, Allow Others Into Your Story, and then Yield to Vision. That's my favorite part. I'm all about vision and planning. Oh, yeah. But I've had the opportunity to share that book with a number of others at this stage of life. So my life is great. I'm a blessed man.
Awesome. Well, I remember you sharing with me that you start every morning with what you call your secret place. And it's time with the Lord before the day begins. And, I'm assuming that it starts with maybe reading some of those books or getting prepared for the day. Why has that rhythm in your day become so important to you?
I think about something that Charlie Tremendous Jones, an inspirational speaker, said. He said, your life will be the same as it is today, 5 years from now, except for the people you meet and the books that you read. Mm. And when I met Josh Walters, he handed me a book called Secrets of the Secret Place by Bob Sorge. And he said, this book has influenced me more than any book other than the Bible. I thought, wow, what a statement to make. That's pretty strong. So it's organized into 52 chapters, and that book unfolds how to enter the secret place, time alone with God, and not only speak to God and read His Word and journal, but to hear from God, to literally learn how to identify and respond to the voice of the Holy Spirit. And that's what excites me in the mornings, is when I get up and I spend time with God, He directs my day and sets my priorities for me.
Right.
And many, many times accomplishes things that are not part of my human capacity, but only possible through His blessing. And that's why I get excited about starting my day every morning about 5:30 a.m. in the secret place.
So you're reading a book in the mornings, you're spending time with the Lord, you're having him direct your day, and you talk about how he, paves the way for you. So what has shaped you in your life to make you want to be more reliant on the Lord and less self-reliant?
Well, it all started when I lost my father and my grandfather when I was 11. It all happened within a 4-month period. And frankly, at that time, I was pretty angry at God. I thought, how can a loving God take away the two men who were so much of a blessing in my life? It really hurt. And so for a while, I was just angry with God. But over about a 6-year period, as God allowed me to become self-reliant and see some of the pain that comes from that, he ultimately brought me back to himself and showed me that even in my attempt to accomplish everything from my own effort, he had been there to care for me and to bless me. And it even caused me to grow up faster than I would have had I not had these trials in my life.
Right.
And so that really shaped me. And so throughout the rest of my life, I've looked for the purpose behind trials. And God has continually developed me by allowing me to suffer some things, but then to make me stronger as a result of what I worked through.
Wow. I'm just thinking about your time with Jumpstart and serving with Jumpstart South Carolina and, mentoring and pouring into the lives of the men and women that are coming through the program. You do a workforce readiness class, but, a lot of those people, all of them have been through trials in their lives and are trying to just get through it and rely on the Lord. And I think about how what happened with your dad and your grandfather has really shaped how you can connect with the Jumpstart participants. Do you think that there's some connection there and just how you connect with people on a deeper level, not just someone who's lost a loved one, but someone who's been through something, who had to grow up so fast and has been angry at the Lord at some point and then realized, hey, I need to not rely on my own understanding, but on his.
Yes, there's a very clear connection between what Jumpstart participants come out of incarceration facing and what I faced when I lost my dad and my grandfather. We both share the fact that we didn't have a provision of what we needed. When folks come out of incarceration, typically they don't have a driver's license, right? They don't have transportation. Most don't have any resources from a financial standpoint to turn to. They don't have a job, and they're really starting from ground zero.
Yeah.
And I felt that way when I lost my dad and my grandfather. They were my provision. They were my transportation. They were the direction in my life that gave me security. And so I know a little bit about what it feels like to be starting a little flat-footed. And I share that with some of the folks whom I've met through the Workforce Readiness Program, and really moves my heart. Takes me back to how I felt as an 11-year-old.
So I just want to circle back to your work a little bit. You're the president of SC Steel. As your career has grown and your responsibilities have increased, how has the definition of your success began to change in this stage of life?
Good question. When I was younger, I was like most every young man. I was very ambitious. I wanted to win at everything that I undertook. I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. I wanted more responsibility. I just wanted a lot, and I was willing to work hard for it. And because of my beginnings, I worked pretty hard. Okay. But as I've grown older in life, I've come to realize that there's only so much value in resume virtues. I've come to pursue eulogy virtues. And I meet with a group of men typically about once a month. We call it our Finishing Well Together group. And we're pursuing eulogy virtues. And those are things that people would say positively about how you impacted their lives when you're at the end of yours, right? And so later in life, it's eulogy virtues that are at the top of my list, not those resume virtues that drove me in my younger days.
Right. And this group that you're in, you're focusing on eulogy virtues. And what does that look like? Walking through what have people said about Charles, and how has he impacted their lives? What do you want to be said about Charles?
Ultimately, I think there's two things that I want to be said about me. He obeyed the two commands that God made most important: love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and secondly, love your neighbor as yourself. And as I participate with Jumpstart, members of the Jumpstart program, I see that they appreciate the instruction that they get in preparing them for workforce readiness, and that they just value the opportunity we have to study what God has to say about work and being ready for work in the way that He intended it.
I guess I want to ask, you connected with Carrie, which is the CEO of Jumpstart, for people who don't know, Jumpstart South Carolina. But what initially drew you in to doing this work? It's not something that most people say, oh, I want to go and work with prison ministry or people who are coming out of incarceration. People don't just wake up and say that, most people. So, you met with Carrie through church, but what made you think this is what I want to do? This is where I want to serve, give my time, give my resources.
Well, let me start by saying how I really saw the value in what Carrie was doing and his personal commitment to it. We were participating in another leadership development program that Grace Church was sponsoring, and I was co-leading that with two other gentlemen. And Carrie was in that group, and he shared with us how when he was sharing Christian teachings out of the Bible, that folks of other religions were not so happy about that. And some of the folks from those other persuasions threatened him, and they threatened his life. They threatened the lives of his family. And I thought, wow, that's scary. He didn't shrink back from it in the least. And at that point, I knew that he was unconditionally committed to the mission that he was doing through Jumpstart, even to the point of willing to risk his own life and risk his family. And so as he persevered through that, I thought, this is a guy that I want to work with. This is a guy who's committed to the mission. He sees the value in what he's doing, and he's not going to shrink back from it. And so as a businessman, I look for return on investment, right? And people who cash in their chips and walk away don't have the opportunity to earn that maximum return. But with Carrie, I saw an opportunity to persevere in a very difficult environment that very few people would be willing to persevere through with the threats that he was facing.
Right.
And so I wanted to get on board with him and help with that. And so as he built Restoration Village, and even before that, I used to go over to the gym in Spartanburg and meet with groups. And I got to know the needs of folks getting ready to enter the workforce. And I said, there's really three things those folks need. Number one, to be reconnected with what God says in the Bible. We look at 4 particular verses about what God says about work.
Right.
Some of them aren't so pretty. They talk about thorns and thistles and sweat of your brow from Genesis. But they also talk about the reason to do our work, like in Colossians 3, to do it for God's glory, not just for the person that you're taking the paycheck from. And so as we study through those things, I feel like I was able to help some of the Jumpstart participants be better prepared to re-enter the workforce and help support the return on investment that Carrie was making. So he's lived up to all my expectations in his commitment and effectiveness. And honestly, I know a number of nonprofit leaders, and I'll say Carrie is one of the most capable and committed leaders, and he's taken Jumpstart in a wonderful direction to benefit a lot of people.
That's awesome. So you teach this class, workforce readiness class, and one of the things that stood out to me that you teach in your curriculum is how to be a blessing in the workplace. I just love that. And I want to know more about, where that comes from in your life, and how you translate that into teaching the participants how to become a blessing in the workplace, and what that looks like for you.
Well, the purpose behind that is Colossians 3:23, do your work heartily as unto the Lord rather than for men. But we talk about 4 particular ways that you can be a blessing to your employer. And one of the fundamental ways we talk about is getting to the break-even point as early as possible. And I share with participants that employers make an investment in them. the cost of interviewing, doing pre-employment testing, drug screening, physical screening, those kind of things. They buy uniforms, they buy boots, they buy safety equipment, they connect them with a mentor. And honestly, all those things cost the company. So we talk about ways that an employee, once they're on board, can rapidly get to the point where the value that they have delivered is equal or greater than the cost that the company has incurred in getting them to the point where they're employed. And so we give some specifics. I won't run down that list now, but I try to help the participants grab onto some things that they can do in the way that they care for the company's assets, the ways that they respect the chain of command, the ways that they show up reliably just in their attendance, the ways that they embrace safety policies that keep them from getting injured at work. And all those things sort of align them with becoming an employee that's a blessing to their company. And it's fun for me to watch them own and commit to delivering some of those things and get a little bit excited about getting to that break-even point as quickly as they can when they're employed.
The reason why I brought that up, Charles, is because, I've been working with JUMPSTART. I started working with you and getting those classes set up and getting you in the door. And a lot of the participants, when you leave, they are just like blown away by your class. People are excited to go to your class. And I just wondered, what is Charles in there saying? And I've sat in on one or two of them, but I just think that what you're teaching them and, you coming in, being busy, being a husband, a father, a grandfather, president of a company, leading these classes with these men and women, and you find the time to come in, and I think that really means so much to the participants, more than I think you'll ever know.
Thank you.
And so I just wanted to tell you that you're a blessing.
Thank you.
To come in and do that. You also hire JUMPSTART participants, correct? Okay. So as someone who's hired JUMPSTART participants, who've been through your class, been through the program, what do you consistently see in the people that you've hired through JUMPSTART that others might overlook or
gratitude and potential. Obviously, those who are coming out of incarceration are starting sort of at the bottom rung of a career ladder, right? And so they're grateful to be given a rung to grab onto. And but so many of the folks that we hire have phenomenal potential. And if that potential is nurtured in the right environment, they can accomplish maybe more than what they would have imagined when they were starting on the bottom rung, right? And so I really like the gratitude that we see. A lot of people whom we bring in the door as employees feel entitled today. It's just something our culture has created. But I've really seen the opposite of that in the JUMPSTART participants. They're grateful, and they apply so many of the things that come from the workforce readiness class. They do show up on time. They do honor our safety principles. They are careful in managing company resources, and that character means a lot. Our company looks for three things: character, competence, and commitment. I actually go through that in our workforce readiness program to share what we look for at SC Steel. But I see so many of the JUMPSTART participants enthusiastically bringing those three things to the table, which is really pretty amazing because there was a point in their pathways where character sort of took a detour, right? Something happened, and some bad choices were made, and there was a set of consequences that they had to endure. So for those that are returning to a character that they departed from, it's a great opportunity for them to work in an environment, and we have multiple JUMPSTART employees in our business. They find encouragement from that. They see others progressing through our skills progression program and earning greater levels of pay and being respected by their peers for the ways that they work and the effectiveness in their roles. And so it's exciting to me to see the positive atmosphere and what the candidates that we hire from JUMPSTART bring to the table in the way of character, competence, and commitment, the three things that we look for at SC Steel.
Wow, I love that. The 3 C's.
That's right, the 3 C's.
So something that you shared with me that I really loved and I just wanted to ask you about, you shared that not all that God has given me is for me. I love that. How has that shaped the way that you think about your influence and your leadership and your involvement with Jumpstart South Carolina, or just in general?
Well, that phrase is one that my friend Kip Miller reminds me of a lot. He's in my inner circle group.
Okay.
We've been together for 2 decades now. And frequently he says to our group, just remember, not all that God has given you is for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's really true, right? When God gives you an abundance, he doesn't give that to you. You know, there's the parable that we read about in Scripture about building the bigger barns, right? You know, when we try to accumulate more than we need, God's not pleased with that, right? And so some of the things that God's given us in the way of excess beyond our needs need to be put into other hands. And I really believe that's God's intention when he gives you that excess, right?
Yeah.
So I don't look at anything that God has placed in my hands as something that I own and belongs to me independent from God. It's something that God has given me to use, first for our family's purposes, and then secondly for the needs that exist around us. And so the things that God has enabled us to develop a heart for, and Jumpstart's one of those things, I am constantly asking myself, God, what would you have me do with some of the excesses that you've given to our family? And part of that's just supporting a good work, the work that Jumpstart's doing in Restoration Village.
I love that. You spend a lot of time around business leaders and, you know, either mentoring them or just around them in general. And I'm just curious, what do you wish more leaders understood about what God has given them for kingdom work?
One thing I've consistently seen is business leaders who are generous receive generosity from others. And I work for a gentleman who models that perfectly. And he's very generous in his personal life. He's also generous to employees. Anything that we need to do our work effectively, we get. And, you know, a lot of business leaders say, you know, I want to manage my capital tightly. You know, I don't want to freely give capital. But one of the principles that's in Greg Brenneman's book, Right Away and All at Once, is think money in, not money out, right? And so when a business owner, my boss is the owner, gives generously to the business, puts money in, that money tends to come back multiplied. It's just like the parable of the talents, right? To the ones who invested it, they earned more. But to the one who buried it, his was taken away and given to someone who would earn more.
Right.
And so I think that when it comes to generosity, business leaders would really benefit from realizing that generosity has a reward behind it, not just the fulfillment reward, but you know, God says in Malachi, bring the tithe into the storehouse and test me and see if I will not bless you in excess of your need. In other words, give you more than you need for your own individual household. And repeatedly, God proves that to be true. In Luke 6, it says, give and it will be given to you, pressed down, shaken together, running over. And I've seen that delivered. That verse mainly relates to giving forgiveness, but it also relates to generosity. And the businesses that I've seen, there's one that I think of as just, you know, at the top of that pyramid. It's Barnhart Crane and Rigging, and they give literally millions of dollars a month. You know, most all of their profits go to charitable causes, and they have a committee within their company where they direct where that charitable giving goes. And the more they give, guess what? The more God blesses. And that's a principle that I think many business owners underestimate or haven't yet experienced enough of to get excited about applying more broadly.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, Charles, as we come to a close, I just have one question for you, for the audience. If there is a business leader listening today who feels like they want to make a difference but isn't sure where to start, what would you want them to hear?
Look for the doors that God opens for you, right? Sometimes we walk very quickly. I'm guilty of this, and fail to notice the things that are going on around us that are needs that God would have us be aware of. And in my time in the secret place, sometimes God opens my eyes to things that I've walked too quickly by. I haven't either seen or been moved by a need that's visible to me because I've been moving too quickly. So I would say slow down, look for open doors, and realize that not all that God has given you is for you. That includes your time, your monetary resources, and all the platform that God's given you in the way of influencing others.
Wow. You mentioned something here, and I just want to read it out loud. It's Hebrews 9:27. It is for every man to die once and then to face judgment. Accept and embrace this and choose to build eulogy virtues more than resume virtues. These are all things that will matter in eternity. I love that.
I really believe that. That's a verse that has been, I taught fourth grade Sunday school 30 years ago, actually, when all of my kids, who are now in their 30s, were in Sunday school in the fourth grade. And we memorized that verse. And ironically, it's on a billboard on Highway 183 that I pass every time I go to Lake Huey. And I'm reminded of it. But I really believe that every man is to die once. We need to live life in the light of the reality that it is finite, right? We will all die once. And then that facing judgment I see as having two elements. The first element is, do you belong to the Lord, and are you redeemed by the work that Christ has done on the cross? That's the first judgment. The second judgment is, what have you done with what I gave you? It's back to that parable of the minas. Yeah. And I really feel like those who pursue eulogy virtues, the things that will be spoken well of at the end of your life, are getting much greater returns on the lives that they're living than those who seek the resume virtues at the expense of their eulogy virtues. Mm-hmm. So I hope that that I can share with many, many more people throughout the rest of my life the value of really focusing on that verse, Hebrews 9:27, and then being prepared for that judgment both in both stages that I just described.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Charles, it's been such a blessing to have you here on the show today, and just to hear more of your heart and your journey and your life and all that you're doing. And it's just been a blessing to so many people, including me. And I'm just super grateful that we were able to have you on the show today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Abby. And to all who may be watching this, I would just encourage you, ask yourself, is God opening a door to you to be a participant in what JUMPSTART is doing, either financially or through training folks who are preparing to return to the workforce, or maybe even through employing folks that are looking for that next opportunity after incarceration? Mm-hmm.